All right, in today's episode, we sit down with Mike Bertucci from SniperCraft Northwest. Mike is a former police officer from the West Side, longtime SWAT sniper. We're going to talk about ballistics. We're going to talk about SniperCraft in the law enforcement world. We're going to talk about a shooting Mike was involved in employing a sniper rifle. Lots of good information. He's a great human being to have here in North Idaho. Let's go. Hey, welcome to North Idaho Experience, a podcast for the people in North Idaho and those who are North Idaho curious. These are the stories of the guys and gals who call North Idaho home. If you guys are thinking about making North Idaho your home, give our real estate team a call. Mike Bertucci, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you.
Mike is from SniperCraft Northwest, as you can see by these beautiful rifles adorning our space. Mike has graciously donated them forever, so thank you.
Take them home. Give them to your
Best
kids.
gift we've gotten yet.
Mike is a former SWAT sniper from Federal Way PD over on the west side. Now resides in North Idaho, and you know who connected us? Our mutual friend Stu.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, dude. We had Stu on the podcast, and
a good guy.
he's a good
really
dude.
good dude.
He is a world traveler. He's got some of our swag now, and I'll have to get you one. And he just sent me a picture. He's in the Greek islands, and
Yes.
he's like repping our brand. I'm like,
That's cool.
dude, yeah.
Yeah, I go, hey, man, you want to come over 4th of July? He's like, I'm going to be in Greece. I'm like,
Yeah, that dude.
really?
That dude, like, I live vicariously through him a little bit because I like to travel when I get there, but the whole process I don't like. So, I live through Stu. It's cool.
Modern day nomad.
He
out
is.
there
He
just
is,
seeing
yeah.
the world.
He
It's pretty
is.
cool.
It's freaking neat. Yeah, we had him on the podcast. You know, he's got a cool military background and executive protection, and pretty much mostly what we talked about was traveling and food, which is, I think,
Yeah.
really what he wanted to talk about. So,
Well, you know, he did a brief stint as a cop, too.
I don't believe he even
He
told me
didn't-
that.
He did
Yeah,
not tell
that's
us.
how I know him.
No
He
shit.
came to our basic sniper school.
Really?
Yeah, when he came out here, he got hired on as a part-time deal up in Spirit Lake, like briefly.
Yeah.
Because he thought, oh, maybe I'll get into law
Give it a
enforcement.
shot.
And he got him to send him to sniper school, and he's like, I'm not going to be a cop. But he got
Thanks for the training.
Yeah.
Thank you for the training.
Yeah.
I can't say I haven't schooled the department a few times on stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to send you, I mean,
Yeah,
that'd be pretty
yeah,
cool
yeah.
training.
Hey, Sarge, you guys send me this training. I promise I'll use it.
I was a little too blunt to send to sniper training, I think.
You size right, that you're just fit right in. You can
Sneak.
sneak well.
Hide under the underbrush.
Yeah.
This is a short joke, I would assume.
Crawl into
gonna kick it off
like
like that.
a hobbit hole or something like that.
Some podcasts, you just choose violence, dude. You just right out of the gate. I understand.
Oh shit. So Mike, Federal Way PD, how many years did you do over there?
I did 23 and a half over there, yeah.
Yeah. How long were you on the SWAT team?
21.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I got on pretty early on when I got there. Obviously, as an entry guy, everybody goes through entry, training, basic entry school, and then quickly shuffled over to the sniper side.
Yep.
And I was, I didn't grow up a hunter or anything. But I dug the rifle thing and kind of the thinking man's game of it. So I kind of like jumped right in and adapted to it pretty quickly, and then stayed there my entire career.
What law enforcement sniper school? Do you guys go to the same school that military gets trained at, or is it?
No, there's various schools out there. There's a lot of guys. My original sniper school was an H&K school that I went to in California, of all places. They sent me down there. But there's a lot of different guys out there, and a lot of ex-military guys are putting on sniper schools for law enforcement, which is good and bad, right? Because it's different. There's similarities, but there's a lot of differences. So you get a lot of guys who will go to these military schools, and they're like, okay, we're going to shoot 1,000 yards and this and that, which in our realm is not realistic. It's good training, not saying anything bad about it. So we have tried to find, and that's why we started our company, is we wanted, we did the job for as long as we did it, and we wanted to tell guys, hey, this is what you're going to run into. This is the stuff you're going to deal with.
Yeah, you told me before the show the average sniper shot for law enforcement.
56 yards
So-
for the past 30 years.
Right.
Because, and guys go, what? Because a lot of civilians are like, oh, you shoot out of 1,000, and well, we work in urban environments mostly.
Yeah,
right? And
where's
so
that
you're,
gonna-
you're
yeah.
close, right? I mean, there's some stuff out in, the South and the Midwest. We might be on some pastures or something, but for the most part, SWAT teams as a whole, you get close to the crisis site. So you're like in a house right across the street. So
Yeah. That makes sense.
Pretty close.
So your training focuses on like practical application and realistic.
Yeah. You know, and guys in my team even used to get on me. I like, hey, we're going to run the basics again, man. We're going to run the basics, because that's what you're going to run into. It's good. And I tell them all the time, hey, we would go like twice a year. We'd get on a 600-yard range just to shoot it and find out what our dope was. And, you know, it's a confidence builder for sure. But understanding that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be 100 yards and closer, maybe 200 yards. But we would do it, and we would shoot out of helicopters occasionally, and that's cool, and you might do that, maybe.
That was my next question, because
Right.
we just had a scenario where that could have played out that way.
Yeah, you know, but we tell guys with that kind of stuff, if you're going to run that specialty, right, there's one thing of being capable of doing it and one thing of being competent. And I can get in a helicopter and shoot, and I'm capable of doing it because I've done it. But if I don't train it regularly, I'm not competent, right? So you can't lead your team and the citizens that you work for to believe that you have that capability if you're not competent in it. So
Right.
like the guys that run helicopters go, hey, if you're going to do it, you got to do it like quarterly, right? You got to
Right.
be on your game and do it. You can't do it once a year and go, oh, I can shoot out of helicopters.
That
Yeah.
seems really hard. You've got the normal movement of the human
Yeah.
and the movement of the helicopter.
It's not easy.
Is it an intuitive timing thing? Like, you know, archery.
Well, no, because when you get into a helicopter, it's a little bit different because it's not a precise shot, right? You're not taking a bolt gun generally up in a bird. You're going to take a semi-auto, and you're
Right.
basically going to strafe them,
Right.
right? You're just going to find your target, and you're just going to, okay, walk me over the target, and you're just going to start running bullets over the top of them.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a different thing.
So do you guys go train in like Texas with hogs? I think that'd be the most
no,
practical
I
application.
so want to do
But
that.
I'll tell you what, man. I'll talk about this later. But we run a competition down in Florida, and the guy that won it this year is from Alabama, and he runs a side business down there where he gets paid by the farmers because the hogs are so bad down there, right? So they pay him to come on and eradicate them. Then the civilians pay him because he takes them out under night vision, and he provides all the rifles and stuff,
Yeah.
and they go hog. So I called him. He was down there, and I called him. I said, "Hey, man, I want to do this. I really, what's it going to cost for me and like 4 or 5 guys to come down do this?" And he's like, "I'll just get here, man. I'll take you out." And I'm like, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that so bad." And Stu, right? I talked to Stu. He just went down to Texas and he sent me these videos. He's shooting out of helicopters on these hogs, which I looked at it. I'm like, it's kind of unfair, right? Because the hog's there and the bird kind of flies over and just sits there, and you're just like da 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 da, and I'm like, it's cool, but But when you're on the ground, my buddy said, they'll move into like a patch of woods, and he goes, and we'll get online, and there's like 8 or 9 of them, and as soon as you crack that first round, they're scattering, and so now it's moving targets, and you're running through the woods chasing them, and I'm like, that's what I want to do.
So I did that in Florida. And
did
funny,
you?
Yeah, it's funny. Your buddy did that. I had a friend of mine, and he worked for Boynton Beach PD. Loved hog hunting, so he trained dogs. So that's the big thing out there is you train dogs, and then you get them bedded down, and then you can run up on them. Same thing. So farmers and other places would pay them to go catch these hogs. Right. He'd live catch them, take them to his buddy's property, who inherited like 250 acres, and then they'd bring out tourists to go shoot these hogs. And I was like, God bless America, man. That's free market capitalism. But he's doing what he loves to do, which is go hunt and catch hogs. And then people are paying them to go shoot the hogs in Florida.
Good gig.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. But I've done it both ways. I shot a boar. It was a big 200-pound boar off a swamp buggy, which is a wild experience.
That's pretty American.
That's pretty legitimate. I would have chose my outfit differently if I knew how that was going to transpire that day. But did that, and then went and got some with dogs where you couldn't shoot them because we were on Florida Power and Lighting property, so you had to spear them, run up like Aborigines.
Get out of here.
Oh, dude, we hiked it out. We tied it up with the bottom of my jeans. I ripped off chunks of denim and carried them out.
You just took a
step
up in the man book, bro. Like, I had no idea.
It was legit, but hog hunting's a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, the best, you get those 80, 90-pound sows that have been out in the sugar cane. They taste so good.
The meat is good, dude.
The big boars, no, they're stinky and messy.
Good to know.
Like the rest of us. No, absolutely. So yeah, boar hunting. You got me going down a rabbit hole, but it's a lot of fun, bro. Take him up on that. You won't forget it.
So Federal Way PD. Tell us about the department. Like, what's the city size? Pretty active.
It's a pretty small city. It's got about 130,000 people. I think
like
when I left,
all of North Idaho.
Yeah. And when I left, I think there was not the population, but the police department size was like 140 cops. But the SWAT team that I was on, like I was saying, it was a regional team. So there's like 6 or 7 cities just south of Seattle that each team would give up 6 guys to the team. So we had a team of about 42 guys. It was pretty decent size for one of the bigger teams in Washington. And so if anything, like a regional team, anything happened in this city, we'd all go there, this city go there. So we were pretty active as a team. And the city I worked in was kind of a shitty city, right? It's but like anywhere, it's got like multi-million-dollar homes on the water,
right.
But there's always that bad part of town, right? So we had all of it. So
The South Side.
yeah, that kind of stuff, cross the tracks, that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
So
It's
every
always-
city you
always
go
that.
to.
Yeah, always that.
I don't know if we got that here. We got
Good point.
Little pockets.
Yeah, good point. There's no like obvious.
It's funny. I got a buddy who, he's a Coeur d'Alene guy, and I've known him. He's come through both our schools. I just did a school up here in North Idaho 2 weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, how's crime in Idaho, North Idaho, Coeur d'Alene?" He's like, "Man, we're down crime 77%," and I'm like, "What?"
77% Part 1 crimes in the last 6 years.
And so my business partner, who's still an active cop over in Western Washington, and he's a commander now, and he's like, I got to ask him, what are you guys doing? How are you driving crime? And he said, "Well, we take everybody to jail, right? You commit a crime.
It's funny how that
you
works.
You break the law." And I'm like, "Oh, there's a unique concept, right? You break the law, you go to jail." But, I think a lot of agencies across the country have kind of pushed away from that, especially in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And you see the results,
Was this Nate by chance?
Yes.
My man. He's a
Yeah.
good dude.
Oh, yeah.
Good dude.
Real good
Rock
guy.
solid
It's like
guy.
a perfect case study in crime.
Yeah.
Is you compare Idaho to a place like Washington
yeah.
or California, and oh my gosh, like wow, you have consequences and shit works.
And people
It's
behave.
Weird.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I
Very
know
weird.
We end up talking about this, and it seems like in every show because we end up comparing. I grew up in Spokane, so I can talk trash. And I actually went to. I knew a few guys from Federal Way because when I was in Explorers, when I was real young, we used to go over there for academies. On the west side
I
and
used
all
to
that.
do a little sniper thing for the Explorers.
Oh,
back
that's
in
cool.
the day, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. But look, cops here do a really good job, and we have some judges that are not so great, but most, people are held accountable here.
Right.
The other part of it is Spokane creates a vacuum. I mean, if you're a bad guy, why would you be a bad guy here when you can go there and there's no consequences? Right? So as good as we are here, there's also there's a draw to Washington State because they decriminalize crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a bit of both. But yeah, 77% when your population's gone up by about 30% is pretty impressive.
I was pretty impressed.
Is that when you say Part 1 crimes? Is that like property crime stuff like that, or what does that encompass?
Yeah, Part 1's like your major crimes. That's like
major
homicide,
crimes.
robbery,
rape, robbery,
yeah,
stuff like
burglaries
that.
in there too.
Yeah.
But big crimes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. So those people who say, with the population increase here that North Idaho's going to shit, not necessarily, huh?
No, and again, I think we have the wool pulled over our eyes sometimes, man, because of the people that we generally get as our clients are good, productive members of society because you don't listen to us talk and be really far left leaning most of the time.
Most of the time.
Just maybe we
of the
won't
time.
vibe with those guys, but yeah. So the ones that we get are good, productive members of society, and they have a vested interest in keeping it that way because they don't want it to be like where they came from.
Yeah.
So in general, I think you get people that want to move here, that want less government intrusion, a safer place for their kids to grow up and be contributing members. So I think some of it's just who we get to.
Yeah.
Well, and I ran into that when I've been here for 2 years now in Idaho, and I live up in Bayview.
Nice.
And some of the locals there, and I remember the first day that my wife and I moved in, we're down there's a little restaurant bar there, and there's a couple locals sitting outside, and this guy, he'd been drinking a bit, and he's like, these damn people from California coming out. He's born and raised here in North Idaho, and he's like, they bring their politics over here and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of listening to him, and then he turns to me like, and where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Western Washington. Well, you need to go to back there too and get out of here. And half of me wanted to just like kick his chair out from under him, but I'm like, okay, you have a nice day, buddy, or whatever. But I kind of got pissed, but then I'm like, well, I understand that. I understand that mentality of they were born and raised here, because there are some people that do move from another state and want to bring their politics. But most people that I've run into in North Idaho here are like me or you guys, where you've seen it, right, where you came from, and you want to get, and you're probably more America loving than the people that live here, because you've seen the bad side and you want to go over here. So I think most people that are coming over this way, they don't fit that mold, right? They want to get away from that and be here to where they can enjoy life and everything's good and their crime is down and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
we're trying to educate people on that because we hear that a lot. I get comments on our YouTube channel all the time that we're the problem.
Right. Yeah.
But really, I would say 100% of our clients are conservative, just good American people that, exactly like you said, they know what happens and they're hell bent on making sure that does not happen here. And I'm making the argument that, one, the cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows about North Idaho. Like, it's no secret, right? We're not telling some secrets here about anything. But I kind of feel like we need to actively recruit more people like that.
Yeah.
Because I do get a little bit concerned about Boise. And as Eric says, the tail wags the dog. And if Boise goes that route, then we could be in trouble up here.
Yeah.
So we need the population. There's downsides to it, right? Home property value goes up as more people move in. Everything changes, right? But I mean, it's inevitable. So you can either bitch about it like the dude at the bar, or you can, embrace it and find the positives.
Yeah.
Well, and what you're talking about, and we've brought this up before, but it's perspective. You're coming from the west side of Washington. You come over Idaho, you don't want to change that here.
Right.
You want to enjoy that and watch for warning signs because you live through the warning signs.
You know how quickly it can decline.
Exactly.
Washington was a good place to live not that long ago.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because when I retired, I was doing some security work up out of Seattle, and we would drive around, my buddies and I, and we're all, ex-cops, and I'm looking, like summertime, I'm looking, like, man, it's beautiful up there. It's just
geographically, it's amazing.
Geographically, it's unbelievable, but the politics and everything and the way they've gone has just ruined it out there. And I'm just like, it's such a beautiful place.
Sucks.
I know, and it does. But I try to remind people that have lived out here for the last 20 or 30 years, say, in a lot of ways, you have the wool pulled over your eyes too. Some people coming from other states where it's really hard to raise a family or have any control over what your kids are ingesting when they're in a public school system, those people provide a hell of a perspective here and are going to have more of a vested interest in keeping Idaho than maybe somebody that's had the blessing of living here for 3 decades.
Yeah.
So
they tend to be more engaged in the community, the people that are coming here and know how bad it can get.
Yeah.
Right.
And you got an eye for those red flags when they pop up, right? Like, I've seen this before.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
Yep. That leads to that, which leads to that, which leads to now I don't have guns.
Right. Yeah. For example,
Now I got to go to Montana.
Yeah. Flying the pride flag in a public building. Like that to me on its face, whatever. I really don't care. But what it's indicating about
it's a dangerous
local legislature, you're going, wait a minute. You want to fly that in your front yard, nobody cares.
Yeah, there's Boise, right?
Yeah.
I read that. It's crazy.
So that's where you just start to look for those warning signs, and people that are coming from the west side of Washington are like, nope, negative. Let's go ahead and nip that right now.
Yep.
Yeah,
So it's wild.
Tell me about being a SWAT sniper, man. What's like? You said you guys were pretty active as far as call-outs.
Yeah, it was, and because again, we're right there, butt up with Seattle and King County, which is the county that I worked in. And anybody that knows Washington knows King County's like the hub of all evil.
Yep.
But yeah, so we were pretty active with our team with regards to call-outs because we got to a point where, and some teams do this, some teams don't, but our NARC guys used to serve all the warrants for themselves and stuff, and they'd get a little bit of NARC, entry training and, tactics and stuff, but not that great. So there would be some mishaps and things go wrong. So finally the cities as a whole got together and said, you know what, we've got trained SWAT guys. You NARC guys can write them up, and then when you get to the point of service, SWAT's going to serve it, right? So we served all of our narcotics warrants. So we had all that going on.
That's a lot. I imagine you guys.
It's a lot, right? Yeah, because they're again the drugs, a lot of drugs out there in the Seattle area. So
there's a clear nexus of violent crime and drugs.
For sure.
So serving like felony drug warrants, I agree with that. You should have a tactical team doing that.
Yeah,
there's probably majority of armed when you're going in.
Right, and the problem what happened is many years back, but Pierce County is the county just south of King County, and they had a NARC unit that went to serve a warrant, and one of the NARCs got shot and killed, and his wife turned around and sued the county and said, hey, you've got trained SWAT guys. You put my husband in danger. He's not trained as much as these. He's got a little training, but not as much as these guys. And they paid out a big lawsuit. And then they started thinking, well, we've got these trained guys to do this. Why are we and the NARCs hate it, right? Because they like to, put the stuff on and kick the doors and all that.
I've been on both sides of that.
Yeah. So it's tough. And I get that. But, so we started serving all the NARC warrants, and then just a lot of violent crime, I
imagine equipment-wise, you guys were better off than the NARC guys too. I was on a high-risk warrant service team, and we got none of the cool shit. like dudes would show up and serve warrants, and we had like we trained, monthly, not as much as a SWAT team would for sure. Sorry, quarterly, no monthly, whatever, one of the two. Most of the guys would just show up in their Kevlar. And they didn't
kind of piecemeal.
They didn't
stuff
provide
together.
plates. Like I went out and bought my own plate carrier, but
Yeah.
and you're like, well, most of these people are armed in some manner, and they're not like SWAT level necessarily, but you're like, fuck,
Right.
what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's
Give us the gear.
man. I've definitely seen both where you work to get a warrant together from the narc side, and then you turn it over to SWAT, and SWAT rightfully is going to say, justifiably, no amount of dope is worth a life, right?
Right,
On the
yeah.
narc side, you're like, I want as much dope as possible out of that house
Right,
because I want them to get put away for a long time, and
sure.
I've worked this case for 6 months. But when you are able to remove emotion, it's SWAT's right.
Yeah.
Like no amount that's in there because then you're going to be safe. But the narc side's fun because then you start working on ruses. Ruses were probably my favorite thing in the world where you try to get somebody out of the house in open air, and do a takedown, control the moment. That is some of the most fun.
And it's tough because the narc guys, we went to, in a lot of teams and departments across the country are going to no more dynamic entries.
Right.
Yep.
Because with a dynamic entry, you blow the door, you ram the door, and you go in, right? You send the team in, and there's one of two outcomes. The guy's going to give up, or there's going to be a shooting.
Right.
Right. So they've kind of pushed away from that. So they do a lot more surround and call outs. Well, the narc guys hate that because they're flushing dope and they're getting rid of it, right? So we always say on the SWAT side, hey, make your case before you have us serve the warrant. Well, and I've run our narc unit before too, and that's tough because you're like, well, yeah, we do have a case, but we could have a much bigger case if we get all the stuff that we know is inside that
we
house.
know we just loaded up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get it, but again, when you're weighing it out of a life and somebody getting killed,
amount of dope's worth
you
it.
got to err on the side of, well, surround and call. And again, that leads to to me, I've seen an increase of police sniper shootings across the country when teams have moved away from dynamic tactics. Because when I started our team, we did dynamic, right? We'd blow the door, they'd send the team in, there'd be a shooting, and the guy's down in the house. Well, now that they've moved away from dynamic entries, a lot more of those tactical things are being resolved by a sniper.
Yeah.
Right? Because the guy will stay in the house. He's not going to come out. He may start shooting at the team, and then when a sniper gets an opportunity, they're going to neutralize him. So we've seen an increase of sniper shooting. So for us, it's like, okay, we really need to get these guys trained up because that's happening a lot more across the country.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That makes a lot of sense.
The fight's coming out.
Yes.
Right.
And then that makes sense for the sniper to handle.
Which again gets back to, I mean, you could force the guys through the door and hopefully they're going to win that battle, but it's a risk. And many times they go in and one or two guys are going to get shot. And it sucks.
You're relying on armor and any force science. I'm sure you did some of that stuff. Like, you, no matter how good and how well trained you are, you're still perceiving that room and that area for the first time. Your brain is looking to orient, and then it has to recognize a threat in an unknown environment where that individual's in their castle. They know everything about
it's
that.
the action versus reaction
Absolutely.
thing, right?
So,
and even on the sniper side, we just we had a guy do a debrief from Austin PD sniper, and it's all on body camera and video, and this guy is barricaded inside an upper apartment. And my guy is on the rifle, he's on the scope, his spotter's watching, and the guy, okay, the door's opening, here he comes. And the guy's, it's a 76-year-old man, and he pops the door, and he pulls a gun, and he gets 5 rounds off of a handgun before the sniper takes a shot. Because, he's got to orient to it, right? It's the whole OODA loop thing, right? You have to, observe, orient, decide, and act.
Yeah.
And even looking through a scope, the guy pops, he sees the gun, it takes that long. And the guy, they always shoot the Bearcat, right?
Yeah.
76-year-old man hit the Bearcat, popped 2 tires, hit the windshield before the sniper got the shot. So, there's the reaction time even on entry or on the sniper side too.
Yeah, well, they say even if you're really well trained, it's between a second and a quarter.
Yeah.
And even an old guy just spraying rounds, his splits are probably at 0.2.
Right.
So it makes sense that he's going to get 5 rounds off.
Because he's already decided that he's going to do it, right?
Exactly.
You're deciding, is he going to give up? Is he going to shoot? What's he going to do?
Right.
And by the time you catch up,
yeah,
he's got some rounds off.
That's why I'm a firm believer in getting rid of dynamic entry. You take in as much, even clearing thresholds, because it used to be, hey, you need to get through the fatal funnel as fast as you can. Now it's that slow and deliberate.
Yes.
You're going to take up as much as you can to allow yourself to see. Yes.
And orient to it, right? To see what you're dealing with.
Yep. And that way it limits that reaction time.
Right.
Now, I mean, I'm not a SWAT guy, so the only time people are doing dynamic entry, I'm guessing, is like a hostage rescue type situation.
Yeah, exactly. If like the guy's going to kill him immediately, and the snipers don't have any shot on him or can't see him, they got to go, right? So they're going to blow the door, and they're just going to, move to contact.
Mass casualty, there's something pushing you. There's
Right.
something absolutely pushing you, and you have to go. Otherwise, and based on the safety priorities they call them now, used to be the priorities of life, but that wasn't politically correct, I guess. So it's safety priorities.
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah, I know, dude. I know. But it was, if it's hostages, innocents, cops, and then bad guys.
The NTOA let me down on that. I'm like, oh, really? You folded to that?
Of course,
It's
they
still the
probably had to. They would have lost all federal funding.
Right,
if they
right,
didn't.
yeah.
Sure, it goes like that.
So paint me a picture for like a SWAT call out, how a sniper is going to set up. And
Yeah, so it's different from team to team, and the way we teach and train guys is that one, you have to not convince, you have to show your team that you're capable, right? A lot of times, like when I started, snipers, and a lot of teams are still this way across the country, because we travel all over the country and we see big teams and small teams, and a lot of the teams are like, snipers are an afterthought, right? I remember going to briefings, right, where we'd show up and we'd have the head team leader, and he's got the operations plan. He's okay, you're gonna do this, and Josh, you're gonna do this, and on and on and on. And then we'd get to the end and we'd say, what about snipers? And he'd go, oh yeah, you guys get out there. Like no clue, like just do whatever, because he didn't even think about us. So what we have tried to train guys on is, one, you've got to show your team that you're capable, right, and you're competent. So that could be inviting entry team leaders out to your training, invite commanders out to show them what you can do. And once they realize that, and the way I got around that was when I kind of worked up through the ranks, I went to the team leader and said, hey man, how about I come out on the operations planning, the scouting, and you worry about the entry team, and I will scout just for the snipers. And you tell me what your objective is, and then I will set up an operations plans for the snipers to best support that. Right. And he's like, yeah, man, because he doesn't have to worry about us then. So he would set his thing up, and I'd say, okay, we're going to have our guys here, here, and here, and this is what we're going to do. And he's like, great. So again, first is convincing them. So then on a call out, so let's say it's an in progress thing, we would get there, and a lot of times you get a commander or a team leader who doesn't necessarily know much about snipers or rifles, and they say, oh, we want you up here, or we want you up here, based on their perception or what they've seen on TV of what snipers do. So we try to train guys. You should have a sniper team leader, right? You got to have a seat at the table, and that guy shows up and he deploys the snipers out, right? Or if it's an in progress thing, the first two guys get there and they're trained up enough to know, I know where I should set up. So it got to a point with our team where we would show up, first two guys get there, we'd check in at the command post, we'd get the situation, and we'd say, we'll let you know where we're going to land. And we would just punch out, and we'd find the best spot that we could get to, and then we get on the radio and say, this is where we're at, and they'd plot us on the chart, right?
Right.
A lot of teams they get there, well, we don't need snipers on this.
How do you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm of the opinion, just probably because I've done it so long, you need snipers on every operation.
I wish I had them on every traffic stop I ever made. That'd be
Yeah.
fucking great,
Right?
right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a use for it, right? And even if it's just gathering intel.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can get up there and I've got a high-powered optic, and I can be a couple hundred yards away, and I can see into the house, which you as an entry guy sitting at the armor can't see.
Yeah.
So that's crucial, right? I can say, hey, man, the guy's got an AK-47 in there with him. That's
Right.
good to know, right?
Yep.
That's what I remember on several call-outs is snipers being able to call, and the recon aspect, even
Yes.
prior to landing, right? Especially if it's a pre-planned event.
Yeah.
Some of the surveillance and all of that. But then even getting on scene, hey, when you go in and you're talking about entry tactics, it goes in, it tees off at the top. It looks like it's an open room to the left. It looks like a straight shot across the
That's
kitchen.
huge.
That's big time when guys are prepared. They'll handle it as they go, but I want as much information as I can possibly get. He appears to be on the 2-3 bedroom on this side. He's moving from that bedroom to the one across the hall. That's all awesome, invaluable for making entry, especially if it goes exigent.
Right. And on the pre-planned stuff, we try to train teams on this as well, is you've got to put your snipers out way in advance of the team, right? You want them out there an hour and a half to 2 hours before the team's going to hit the house. Because, again, you sit there, and this has happened many a times. We're out there watching team. Ooh, we can hear the team, okay, we're loading up or this and that, and they're still back at the staging area. And all of a sudden we go, hey, our guy just got in a car. He's leaving.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we've got assets set up to take that guy out versus if we're not there before the way we used to do it, we'd show up with the team and you had a dry hole because the guy left 20 minutes before you got there.
Right.
So
Yes.
just getting on scene and that just intel gathering.
Are you guys, I mean, when you're out finding a spot to set up, I mean, are you hitting private residences and then asking for permission or what?
Yeah, and that's
what do you do?
that's a dicey
Especially
area.
in Washington.
Oh,
Over
yeah.
here, you'd be like, bro, can I get you some water? You guys need coffee? Come on in, set up.
And it's hit and miss. And we try to train guys because we ask these guys, and when they come to our basic course, and we go, okay, hey, you're going to deploy on this thing, and you bump into the neighbor's yard, and the guy comes out and goes, get the hell off my property. Yeah. And you say, oh, it's the police in the name of the Queen. We're doing good work here. Are you legally there? Can you be there legally?
Right.
You can't. You're trespassing. Even if you're the cops and whatever you're doing, you don't have permission to be on that guy's property. So if he tells you to leave, you got to leave. And there's a case out of Oregon where a guy, and I think he knew it was the cops, but he's kind of a jerk, and he comes out and he's like, hey, get off my property. And they're like, oh, it's the police. Go back inside. And so he comes out with a gun. And they're like, oh, drop the gun. So they end up shooting the guy.
Oh, my God. What a
right?
fucking shit show.
And so it goes to court, and they find out that, well, yeah, they're illegally. And the guy, of course, says, well, I didn't know who they were. They were in camouflage. And the court decided, well, yeah, it's his house. It's his castle. He's got his family in there. The cops didn't have permission. They didn't let him know. And it makes sense. But so we always tell guys, yes, do it. But, you know, when you have those things where people say, hey, who is it? And most people are pretty good when you explain to them. The hard part is that sometimes on the pre-planned stuff, and our guys will understand this, you got to really look at your surrounding neighbors, right? Because if you're hitting a dirtbag house and then you can tell this house over here is a dirtbag house, well, I don't want to contact them and let them know that we're going to serve a warrant the next day because they're going to tell them.
Right.
So we kind of gauged it, and it's a real, I guess, a guessing game of like,
There's a
should we
balance.
notify this person that we're going to be in their backyard, or should we just do it? Because if we notify them, and like, you know, you show up and there's a house and it's a real dirtbag house, and the house right behind them is, you know, American flag, and it's a nice lawn. Well, hey, and they're like, absolutely, you want some coffee? We'll open the gate for you and all that stuff, because they've been dealing with this problem in their neighborhood.
And they want
it
it gone.
done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a guessing game, and you have to be real. We've been burned on it a few times, but you get pretty good at gauging that.
I guess you've got like parking garages. I'm trying to think of other options. Vehicle, like in a vehicle, shooting out.
We do a lot of vehicle hides. And so in fact, when I was on our team, we all ran minivans. And this is a trade secret, right? Because over where we're at, I mean, there's so many soccer mom vans run around there, and I had this pretty sweet beat up minivan where, you know, you could pull the doors, and we took all the back seats out, built a platform back there, and set up on a tripod, so you could just pull up and just open the door, drop the window, and you got a shooting platform. So
my favorite UC ride was an Astrovan.
yes.
Oh, and
Nobody suspects
dude,
it,
I would
bro.
deploy the snipers, like, because you could roll out and look completely inconspicuous,
You blend
and
right
nobody
in.
would have any idea. But yeah, it's a weird balance when you're doing your pre-planned mission stuff.
Yeah.
We would have that set to where we would research people all over the block, and then we'd have like a timeline. All right, at this point, I'm going to reach out. I'm not going to do it the day before.
Right.
I'm not going to, for CNT, for hostage negotiation, we took on a lot of the intel. So I would have as much as I possibly could. Hey, there's kids here. They'd be in school here, to all the surrounding places, because there's so many different factors. You know, you're trying to mitigate some of the risk to innocent and stuff like that.
And we would also get into the habit of, even if it was a friendly, right, we would contact them. We'd say, hey, you know, your neighbors, and like, oh yeah, we've called so many times, and we'd say, hey, great, next Wednesday we're going to be here and serve a warrant, so we might be in your backyard. And they'd be like, okay. Well, we'd actually be serving the warrant on Tuesday, because if we tell them Wednesday, right, a lot of times, well, then the family comes out and they got popcorn and they want to see everything right on their
They
back
got all their
deck.
buddies over.
And you're like, oh, no. So you just kind of give them the wrong date, and they're like, oh, and they're happy the problem got solved, but they didn't get to watch it live.
Yeah.
That was a good idea.
No, it's awesome. But yeah, dude, I love that minivan.
So,
I think it's the best.
Ideally, like perfect scenario, you'd have 360 coverage of snipers.
Yeah, ideally you would, but again, that's on most teams you don't have enough
At
snipers
least 3
for
or
that.
4 guys,
right?
I would think.
And what we run into as well is I've always been a firm believer, and I had this little catchphrase again, let snipers be snipers, right? A lot of teams, they go and well, you're a sniper, but you're also an entry dude, and you're maybe a perimeter guy, and you're a breacher. And like when I started, that's the way it was for our team. Well, you're a sniper, but you're also a qualified entry guy, so on the day of, we'll let you know where we need you. So I would show up, and I'm like, okay, well, and they're like, you're in the stick today, grab your heavy vest and your helmet. So then I'd have to run and get the right kit. while the rest of the guys are all geared up and they're like, come on, Mike, let's go. And I'm, lagging behind because I don't know how to kit out, right? Or it's like, okay, today we need you on your rifle. Okay, let me go get my rifle, my greens and all that. So we decide when I became a team leader, I said, hey, we've got enough guys on our team that we can break snipers away to be just snipers, right? And that way, there's not that lag time. And plus, what we found was that when we did that, just like anything, right? When that's your dedicated job, our skill level went like this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because that's all your training and all you do. Just like an explosive breacher. If that's all he does, he gets really good at blowing doors and all that stuff. But when you try to, it's jack of all trades, master of none, you spread a guy too thin. Well, he's kind of a half-ass sniper. He's a half-ass entry guy. Right. And I always didn't want to be the entry guy that screwed something up, right? I missed a training because I was sniper training, but now you've changed a tactic that I'm not aware of, and I went left and I was supposed to go right, and I didn't want to be the weak link. So I always tell guys, if you got enough guys on your team, break your snipers away, just let them be snipers. Right. But I also understand a lot of teams don't have enough personnel for that, right? So a lot of times it's like, well, we just don't have enough guys because if we break away 4 to 6 snipers, we don't have enough guys to make an entry, right? So I get that, but I'm like, well, you have to have equal training time. You can't say, well, entry's going to train 2 days a month and then you're going to get 2 hours of sniper training. Well, you're shortchanging, right? Yeah. If you have to split it like that, well, you're going to get 2 days of entry training, but you're also going to get 2 days of sniper training. That's a tough sell to a lot of agencies, right? Because like, well, wait a minute, my SWAT guy's now, instead of 2 days a month, he's going to be gone. He's telling me he's going to be gone 4 days a month.
Right. Sign me up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's tough, but it's a balance. But yeah, we broke away to where we were just, that's all we did it was our sniper team. And we didn't do, and it was a tough sell to my guys because I'm like, a lot of guys go into SWAT for the CDI factor, right? The chicks dig the helmets and the heavy vests and flashbangs. And I'm telling them, okay, you got to give all that up. We're not doing that anymore because you're just going to be on the rifle. I'm like, But once they saw that our skills and abilities went through the roof doing that, they kind of dug it. So.
And they could still look cool.
And they can still look
cool.
it's
pretty, come on, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
No, I'll say CDA does that right. Ours is dialed. Like you've got 2 days of training for SWAT, extra days for snipers.
Yes.
Like that one we invest. That one, so does county, but county and city, they invest heavily in that.
What kind of accuracy standards, if you can share, are like pretty standard for SWAT guys?
Yeah, on the sniper side?
Yeah, sniper side.
Yeah, so again, it varies. Every team's going to have their own qualification. So we run, a lot of times it's, teams will run just with a rifle on accuracy, like you have to holes through holes kind of thing. Well, I'm part of an organization called the American Sniper Association, and we've kind of set out standards of what a qual course should look like for snipers, and it's got to reflect kind of what you do. So that for us, it's a 10-round qual course, but there's a lot of running and gunning with it, right? Where it's not just getting behind the rifle and shooting little. Because I used to tell guys I could train a monkey to get behind. The rifle is phenomenal, right? If you bench rest and lock this thing in and just pull the trigger, it's going to shoot tiny little groups. This is the weak link, right? So you have to understand that you're not going to be laying flat at 100 yards on a flat piece of concrete on a call out. You're going to be running, you're going to be in some awkward position, all that kind of stuff. So you have to train that. So we built that into our qual where like you're running 400 yards, drop down, take a hostage rescue shot, or positional shooting, or you're standing, taking some shots and all that kind of stuff. So
under stress,
right? Get the heart rate going, get
that's
the stress
real world.
Going. Yeah.
That's like the difference between punching holes in paper with your pistol and then like running and gunning,
gunfighting.
And it is a different freaking beast.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, how accurate are you guys with these things?
So most rifles will hold what they call as a minute of angle. So at 100 yards, it should keep a group 1 inch, right?
Yeah, that's pretty fucking.
And again, we're not getting out to distances. So again, it comes to a capability thing, right? So we tell guys, at 100 yards, the rifle's capable of, in a lot of like custom builds, they'll say we'll give you sub MOA, so at half an inch at 100 yards. But again, you start throwing stress and all that stuff in there, and that's going to open up on its own, right? So they're very accurate rifles, but we train guys to shoot the cranial vault, right? So right here in the forehead, right, which is about a 4 inch by 3 inch deal. So if you can hold that, that's what I'm looking for.
And that's instant central nervous system shutdown.
Yep, instant incapacitation, right? Because you're taking out the central nervous system. And we train in a lot of, and I tell guys, go back to your agency and your commanders, your chiefs, your sheriffs have to understand, when you shoot somebody, you're shooting to kill them. You're not shooting to wound them. You're not going to, if it's got to the point where a sniper's taking a shot, it's to the point where this guy needs to be stopped and be dead right now.
Yeah, because we've all seen the videos where the guy shoots a gun out of someone's hand or something.
Worst thing that ever happened for police snipers, and I know that because we talk about that in our classes. Because as soon as that happens, they're like, "Well, why didn't you just shoot the gun out of his hand?"
Yeah.
Well, that guy got lucky.
Yeah.
And we as
Shoot
the
him in the leg.
Yeah. Well, the ASA, we actually did a thing where after that, because everybody's like, well, snipers could just shoot guns out of people's hands. So we took a bunch of like different pistols and all that stuff and set them up in a vise at 100 yards, and we would shoot them. And all kinds of crazy things happen, right? Metal goes flying everywhere. Sometimes it would hit the cylinder and a round would launch off somewhere. So it's really dicey, right? So if you got a hostage rescue and you got a gun to somebody's head, well, you might shoot that thing, and then the bullet's going to send the round right into the hostage's head. So it's not a good thing. So
that training sounds like a lot of fun, by the way.
It's
going to shoot
I
weapons.
would be down to do that.
That sounds like
for
a blast.
sure. Okay, so do you have any OISs that you were involved in with this?
I did early on in my career. I'm an old guy, so it was way back in 2005, and I was pretty new to the team. I think I had like 4 or 5 years on, and this guy had real interesting. It was actually in my city. So the team ended up coming to my city, but it was a day that the entry team was training and the snipers were off because we trained different days than the entry guys. So I get a call and like, hey, we got this guy, he's barricaded and he's armed and it's in our city. So I zip out there and it's a guy that we had been looking for. We had a guy that had been committing some robberies at some gas stations and 7-Elevens. So they have identified him, who he was, and he had gone to his buddy's apartment. And he's up there, and patrol responds out there, and he's like, get out of here, I'm going to shoot some cops, blah, blah, blah. So they back off, and they call SWAT. So the team, who was already up and geared for training, they're out there right away. So the snipers start trickling in, and we get there, and this guy, it's a huge complex, but it's a 3-story building, and he's in the upper left one. There's 4 in each one. So he's up there, and we kind of start working this deal, and they start evacuating the whole building, and they're getting people out. And they get it's his buddy's apartment. So his buddy comes out and he's like, oh, he's not in there. And I'm like, well, we know he's in there. And so we find out they're doing checks on people they've evacuated. And they're like, hey, what about this guy in the apartment right next to him? Because it's one of those buildings where, have you seen these old crappy apartment buildings where it's a long hallway that goes down. There's a door on the left and a door on the right, right? So he's in this one. And well, what about the guy here? So the manager's there. They put a call into Mr. Wyatt, 78-year-old guy. And like, hey, Mr. Wyatt, are you still in your apartment? Yeah. Are you in there by yourself? Nope. Like, oh, he's like, yeah, somebody kicked in my door and he's in here. So the guy had gone across the hall, kicked the door in. So now he's got this old guy hostage, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, where's he at now? And he's like, oh, he's back in the back bedroom. And they're like, come out. Can you come out? So he comes out, self-evacuates. So now we're like, okay, shift over. So now he's here. And he's in that apartment. And the interesting part was, so you have those 2 apartments, and then, it's the top floor, so there's a firewall in the attic space, and then 2 more apartments on the other side. And so we kind of contain it, we lock it down to where we think it's these 2 apartments. And we put guys in the 3rd apartment, and they pop a camera up, and they can see in the attic, oh, firewall's intact, right? So he hasn't breached that, so he's clearly over on this side. Because the old man said, last I saw, he was trying to get up in the attic. So we're putting gas in there and all this. It goes on. And so probably about 3 hours into it, the guys pop the camera up again and they're like, oh, wait a minute. It looks like the firewall's been breached. Well, he had cut a piece of the firewall, gone through and then placed it back up in there. So, and they didn't really catch that. So
that was smart.
He went right over the top of our guys that were in that 3rd apartment. So we're like, okay, we got to put guys in the attic to find out what's going on. So they put a couple of guys up in the attic and it's totally gassed out because they've been pumping gas and CS and OC in there. So they're fully kitted up with their masks and they see footprints in the insulation. We had gone over the top of them and then all the way down to the last apartment, and they start moving up and they can see the hole kick down into the apartment. So we're like, oh, and then all of a sudden he pops up and starts shooting at them in the attic. So they kind of get in this gunfight.
In the attic?
Yeah.
With gas masks on?
Yeah.
Fuck.
And it was kind of crappy because there was 4 guys up there and 2 of them kind of advanced on the hole, and another 2 turned and dropped back out and left the other 2 guys up there. And they're like, which caused a whole bunch of problems later. But anyways, they get in this engagement with him, and the team had just switched to, in their M4s to these like soft tip rounds. And so they're hitting, the hole that he kicked had some 2x4s there, and it's hitting the 2x4s and it's just splattering.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't hit him, and he drops back down. So they decide to evacuate out. So all 4 guys get out, and well, now we know we have them locked down. So we kind of all shift over to this apartment, and I'm on the backside of the apartment with he was my team leader at the time because I was, again, relatively new. And so he's shooting out all the windows, and we got guys on the front that are shooting. And so it's this massive gunfight that's going on. And we used to have what's called a Delta order. So that's when a team leader would get on the radio and say, hey, this guy's like actively shooting. We request a Delta order, which means shoot him if you see him. Mm-hmm. And so the team commander would get on the radio and say, yep, copy that. We have a Delta order. Okay, copy, Commander so-and-so, Delta order. So that just kind of brings the whole team on the same page. So this kind of goes on, and we're watching a back slider in a window. And I remember looking through my optic, and I could so my team leader was covering the slider, and I'm covering this little kitchen window. And I can see the blinds on the slider start. And I'm like, hey, man, get ready because he's coming to your slider, but I have to stay on my area that I'm trained on, right? So moving, and all of a sudden the blinds, I see the guy, and he peeks his head out the blind. So I take a shot, and one of the entry guys who's up there says, hey, after we heard a shot, we heard a thump, and we think the guy went down. And so they kind of slow everything down. We check, make sure everybody's good, and then they push in, and I had shot him, and he went down. So interesting, though, because, again, it went on for, I think it was a 10-hour call-out.
Oh, shit.
And you get lackadaisical, right? Because it's going on and on.
Adrenaline's come down.
Yeah, and it was in November, and I remember after shooting, you kind of calm down, and then I looked over my shoulder, and there's another apartment complex literally like 20 yards behind us. And there's probably 50 people out there on their decks just watching this whole thing. And I went, wow.
Did they applaud you?
There's a bad part of town.
Yeah.
Throwing rocks at us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so interesting. And again, so then they do the whole, and we had a couple of, because again, now we've had multiple guys shoot. I was the only one. Well, no, I actually got hit a couple times. He got grazed with a ferret round. One of my buddies shot a ferret round and clipped him across his chest. Because we were just dumping everything at him that we had at that point. So, again, they do the officer-involved shooting thing where they bring us back. They kind of isolate us and do that whole process. Mm-hmm. But, it worked out. And we went to – it didn't go to – so the prosecutor, there's no charges filed because they deemed it a good shoot. And then they do an inquest in Washington. So we had to go before this – it's not really like a jury trial, but it's this board of people that, they ask you all these questions and they just – determine whether your shooting was justified. And so we went through that whole thing, and they came out hands down, yep, this guy, bad guy,
Righteous.
Situation was going. And then family, because then you always worry about a civil suit after that, right? But the family had come out, and this guy was estranged from his family, and like, oh, we know he had drug problems, and, we understand what happened and why the police did what they did. So I got lucky in the sense that I get drugged through a civil trial, which a lot of guys do, and it can be very bad.
Civil can be brutal.
Yeah,
Like,
I've had some guys.
Did you end up hitting him in the cranial?
No, I actually, the round, it was through glass, and we can talk about
and you had like a split second.
Oh, yeah, it was, because he just took a peek, right? And it's weird because I shot once, and I'm like, why didn't I rack around you? But, you go through your mind of why you did and what you didn't do. But it went real fast, and it hit the glass and, like, glanced down a little bit. So it went kind of into his throat and blew out his aorta.
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
What kind of gun were you using for that?
So weird story on that, too. So I had an M4 because I was new. I was with our team leader. So we get there. He grabs his 308. And I'm like, okay, well, he's the team leader. I'm his spotter, so I'll grab my M4. I had a 308, didn't grab it. Mm-hmm. So I'm there with my M4, but I'm thinking, why didn't I have my 308 with me, right? But no big deal, but because guarantee that wouldn't have deflected if I shot that through there.
Yeah.
But from, again, being early on, I thought one of the lessons I learned was always deploy my 308 because you don't know what you're going to run up against barrier-wise. So got lucky that it still did work. But again, shooting an M4, and I was old. I think it was.
Did you have an optic on it?
Yeah, a little 1 to 3 power.
Yeah.
So I could see a little bit. And again, close in, right? I was 42 yards off this back window.
Right.
So,
Which that M4 would do that all day
I mean,
long.
it probably could have got it with the pistol. But,
Yeah.
So.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, but it's interesting because what we train guys as snipers is, especially law enforcement, right? So my sniper, he was my sniper partner. He's my business partner now, Phil Glover. He's still an active cop over there. He's been on the team. I was on the team 21, 22 years. He just came off because he got promoted to commander. I think 28 years on the team as a sniper. Never took a shot. Right. So we tell guys, you have to train and be ready to do it every single day of your career.
Yeah.
It may or may not happen, but you have to be ready. Right.
Yeah, and that's
That's
what all
the
that
hard part.
And
Yeah.
because obviously shit has hit the fan if you guys have to
Right.
take that shot, and
Yeah.
there's lives in danger.
Yeah.
That's
But that is, it's like for my world being a trooper, you make 1,000 traffic stops and nothing goes wrong.
you train for the one that
And
does.
then you get
Right,
that one.
yeah.
And you just it's such a hard job because you have to be ready for
Which
that.
is, and I talk to guys about this. I'm big into the whole stress and all that stuff. But,
Yeah.
police work is stressful and just not the unknown, right, that you could run into. And the hard part with cops is they will get lackadaisical throughout their career.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like I've done this 1,000 times and it always goes this way. Well, that one time, and if you're not ready for that one time,
Yeah.
you could end up losing your life. So
Yeah.
but that puts you on a high stress level, right,
Yeah.
throughout your entire career of always, in the red.
Yeah.
You
It's human nature, man. It's human
Yeah.
nature where you're going to look at it and you're going to try to explain away fears because it's not healthy to be operating at that level all the time.
It's
So
hard.
it's a constant fight of complacency.
Yeah.
It is because, again, you're fighting your own internal systems that are trying to pacify some of your concerns and safety stuff
sure.
because it's not good to have high cortisol levels.
No,
So
yeah.
how do you find that balance? You don't want to be the guy that's walking around like there's ninjas in the
Right.
trees, right? But at the same time, you never want to be the guy that's explaining away legitimate threats.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Alcohol.
Yeah, that's true. There we go. Whiskey.
Lots of whiskey.
Yeah. Start selling houses.
Yeah, we get into a career that is also equally
Right, stressful.
fucking stressful, man.
Yeah.
I think
I've
that's
had
probably why we love it.
Yeah, I've had
true.
some buddies that are in real estate. And
Yeah.
they're like it's not fun.
Everybody
Sometimes-
thinks it's easy.
Hey, this part's
Everybody
fun.
thinks it's
This
easy.
is
Yeah, this we love.
Yeah, I
yes.
enjoy
Yeah,
this.
the actual job is tough. So your current business, SniperCraft Northwest. Tell us about that. Like, where do you guys operate? You guys all over the U.S.?
Yeah, so we started. So before we started the business, I used to teach the basic and advanced sniper stuff for Washington State. It used to be taught through the academy, which is the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission. So did that for about 10 years. Me and a guy by the name of Jeff Gohagan was the Seattle SWAT sniper team leader at the time. So we taught the basic and advanced courses for about 10 years. And then when I retired, Jeff got promoted off the team, and then I was running it for a while. And then when I retired, they just quit doing training for snipers. Well, I was, and still am, the sniper advisor for the Washington State Tactical Officers Association. So guys would call me and go, hey, we need snipers trained. What, the academy's not doing anymore. You guys are new. What do we do? So we had a buddy of ours that we had met over the years out of Florida, and he was a retired, I'm going to get it wrong, I want to say Miami-Dade sniper for 27 years. And he started, 30 years ago, he started a company called SniperCraft out of Florida. Mm-hmm. And he puts on a week-long conference competition every year in Florida called Sniper Week. So when I was an active sniper on the team, we used to go compete every year down there. And it's a great event. 2 days of conference, bring in, guest speakers. I've seen Grossman. I've seen Chris Kyle was there one year.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. And so they do that. Plus, the unique part is that he would bring in law enforcement snipers that have been involved in sniper shootings. And he says, okay, we're going to, you come down for the conference. We're going to pay for your airfare and your hotel, but you have to give us a 1 hour debrief on your shooting that you're involved in.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to talk, about what happened. And the caveat is good, bad, and ugly. Right. You don't just get down and talk about what a hero you were, which a lot of times was the case, but you also have to tell us, what went wrong or how could you have done things better? And to me, again, we talk about training. That to me, for snipers, that's the best way to learn, right? Because I would go down to this thing and I'd say, okay, I'd put myself in his shoes or behind his rifle and say, well, what would I have done? Does my team have that capability? What would we do? And so we would learn from that. And so anyways, great guy. And he used to do Sniper Week West in San Diego that we go to, and then Sniper Week in Florida every year. So did that, got to know him really well. And so when the stuff up in Washington kind of ceased and guys would call me and go, we need guys trained, what do we do? So I would call, his name's Derek Bartlett, and he's known in the police sniper realm as like he's the guru, right? Mm-hmm. He's been around, everybody knows him. So we'd say, hey, Derek, can you come up and do a basic course or an advanced course? So he would fly up from Florida, my business partner now, and I would help him run the course, and then he'd fly back. So did that for a couple years, and then one day he was up doing a class, and we're having dinner, and he's like, hey, I don't mind flying up and teaching class. The money's, because we didn't take any of the money, right? He would get paid. We give him all the registration. We would just help out to do it for the guys in the state. And he's like, but you guys are here and I'm in the furthest part of the country. The flight sucks and all that. So why don't you guys just do it yourself? And we went, oh, we never really thought about that. And he's like, you've done it before. You've trained with me. I'll help you get, up and running. So that's when we started SniperCraft Northwest. And so again, being part of the American Sniper Association, because I'm also the ASA Northwest representative. So I cover like Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. So we started teaching the same American Sniper Association tactics and philosophies up in the Northwest. So that's how we started, and he kind of helped us get that going. Since then, we have another buddy, Olin Sexton. He's down in South Carolina. He's now retired. He and his partner, Brian Anderson, started SniperCraft Mid-Atlantic. So they're down in that kind of like southern area. And then shortly after that, another buddy of ours who's up in Hartford, Connecticut, he's still an active cop on their team. He started SniperCraft Northeast. So we say affiliates, but we're not affiliate. We don't like pay an affiliate fee. We just are we wanted to get together and teach the same tactics and concepts for cops across the country.
You hold the same standards.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I'm in the same boat. Not to interrupt you, bro.
No,
but
go ahead.
man, debriefs. I learned more from debriefs than anything else. If I could have gone to a law enforcement class where it was nothing but critical incident debriefs,
huge.
I take so much more away from that, especially when somebody's willing to say, in hindsight, had we done it like this, had we pre-planned, we changed our tactics to do this, this, and this. I learned a ton from
So
that.
when you run into that situation, you're like, wait a minute, that guy talked about this and he did this, that didn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I tell guys too all the time that for us, the debriefs plus competition, like when we first started way back, we never used to compete. I mean, it was foreign to us, right? But I said, let's get out of our training bubble, right? Let's go down. So I remember the first year we went to Florida to compete, or maybe it might have been San Diego. We went down there and we thought we were pretty good, right? We're pretty good snipers. We train a lot. We're snipers, just snipers. And I think there was 50 teams and we took like 47th. And we just went, oh my God, we suck, right? Yeah. Because it's a whole different, you talk about like entry guys, they have like simunitions, right? Where they can go and there's immediate feedback when you get hit with those paintballs.
It hurts.
Oh, shit, I'm not going to do that again, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing like that for snipers, right? There's no simunitions round that we can shoot at 200 yards and hit a dude. So I've found that debriefs, one of the best ways to learn, and then competition, right?
Yeah.
Because the stress of just your teammates you're competing against and then your other, guys from other teams and so it brings in guys from all across the United States. We've got international teams that come down. There's some military guys that come down. So there's the pressure of, man, I got to try
performance.
I got to try to do good. So those debriefs coupled with that competition in that 1 week, phenomenal for guys. And I tell guys all the time, if you can get to Sniper Week, we got an advantage where our team, we had a great team commander that came in one time. So our team, like I said, 6 agencies, 6 guys from each city on the team, plus 1 commander from each city. So the head commander would rotate every 2 years. So we got a guy in one of the rotations that became the commander, and he was actually from my city that I worked in. He's our deputy chief. He was a commander at the time. And he gets it. He's a competitive shooter. He was on Top Shot a little bit. And so he really smart guy. So he came out to sniper training, kind of like asked me, what do you guys do, this and that. And we got to talking, and I was telling him about Sniper Week and explaining it. And so he got it written in our policy that once a year snipers will attend one out-of-state training. So we always chose Florida.
So important.
Yeah. And it was interesting because as time went on, so we started doing that regularly. And then I became the team leader, and of course those commanders rotate in and out, right? They'll do a year or two, and then they'll go off, and then a new guy comes in. So we would get a commander from another agency that would come in, and they'd say, we're not sending our snipers to Disney World again. This is BS. It's a waste of our money. And I would go in to the chiefs and commanders meeting, and I would make the case and say, look, I don't care if this training was in Minot, North Dakota in the middle of winter. if it's the best training for my guys, that's where we need to go. I don't choose that it's in Southwest Florida, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world.
I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
yeah.
But that's not the reason we're going. And they would say, okay, you're right. And so we would go. So our team got to go every year. But a lot of teams don't have the funding for that or the capability. But I tell guys that we train, at least once in your career, get down there because the debriefs are amazing. The competition is amazing. And just the networking with guys from big teams, small teams. I remember going down there one year and we competed. And I think we took top 5 teams get prizes. And I think that year we took like 3rd or 4th. And we got, I don't know, like some bags to carry rifles and like a couple cases of ammo. And I'm like, well, shit, I don't want to ship all this ammo back to Washington, right? Because our team was pretty well funded and I got all the ammo I wanted, right?
Yeah.
There was a team down there from like Tennessee, and they're like, we get 3 rounds a month for training.
Whoa.
Like, here you go, boys.
I'm like, take it, man.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, you think everybody does it the way you do it, but it's not. You're all doing the same job, but like you talk about, some teams aren't as equipped well as others, and some teams don't train as well as others. So the networking and I've made lifelong friends with those guys over the years of being at Sniper Week. So phenomenal thing.
There's something about competition that you like related to jiu-jitsu. You know, you train, you roll with guys every day, but the stress of a competition, you just cannot reproduce that.
Right.
It's so hard
takes
to
it to a
reproduce.
next level.
It does. So and that is where you learn the most. So that makes sense to me.
Performance anxiety. Like, you want to win. You have
Right. I mean, we're all alpha type guys, right, in that role anyway. So you
all
want
watching.
Yeah, you want to perform, and it's interesting. I remember another one thing where just the stress, right? One of the years we're down there and we're on tripods, and so I would have to shoot like 3 rounds, and then my partner would switch out tripod and shoot 3 rounds. Well, I shoot my 3 rounds, and my partner's getting up, and I'm looking at the team next to me, and this guy puts his rifle up, and he didn't have his magazine in there, right? So he's hand loading, so he puts a round in, and it just drops right through the rifle, and it hits the ground.
Shit.
And he stares at it, and his brain just wasn't comprehending it, so he picks it up, and he does it again. He did it 3 times before he realized, wait a minute, I got nothing catching it. It's just, but it was that stress, right? And then by the time he realized it, the buzzer goes off and he missed the whole thing. So it's just the stress of competition because he knows better than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really
It's
good.
hard to replicate that, though. And trying to, like, we talked about that all the time when we were training out at the academy. How do you do stress inoculation? How can we create an environment where we can try to at least somewhat, simulate the stress that you're going to feel in an actual critical incident where it's life and death. So, I didn't think about that, but competition, definitely. Because you get nervous, you get anxious. You wake up early that morning, you're like, all right, like anytime you're going to do it, you wake up
even
and
if it's the shit you do every day.
Yeah.
We had one year we were down there, and I always bring my team down, so there's usually 6 to 8 of us, and brought the team down. We had a new guy on the team from Port of Seattle, was one of our agencies that was on our team. So this guy was from Port of Seattle, relatively new sniper, just went through Sniper Basic. So we get down there, and I said, okay, it's like day 2, and I'm like, okay, guys, 6 o'clock, we're going to meet in my room, and we're going to kind of talk about the competition that's coming up. And so these guys show up, they knock on the door, and they're all in shorts and flip-flops because it's, Florida and sunny out. And my roommate and I were in our BDUs. We had our kit on in the room. We had our rifles, and we got targets taped on the wall. And he walks in, he's like, whoa, you guys are serious about this shit. And I'm like, yeah, we are.
Yeah, we want to win.
And not look like idiots and take 47th. So, yeah.
What? So, do you guys also train civilians?
We don't. So Derek Bartlett, the guy that kind of got us going, and the grandfather of police sniping, and I've heard him say this for many years, is he doesn't train civilians either. And the reason being is, and it makes sense to me, and my partner and I went with this philosophy, is that I don't want to train a guy and then all of a sudden, Butler, Pennsylvania, a guy takes a whack at the president and they go, well, who is this guy? Oh, he got trained by Mike Bertucci with SniperCraft Northwest, right? So we keep it to law enforcement corrections guys and not that a cop can't go wacky, they can, we know that, but we feel better that, okay, the clientele that we're training is doing the right thing for the right purposes. And not to say that civilians are bad, but I just don't want to train a guy that's going to go then take those skills
That's
and
fair.
put them on the public
Yeah.
for a bad purpose.
that makes sense.
Yeah. You don't want to be the flight school that trained the Middle Eastern guys that flew into the trade
Right.
center. Yeah,
Exact same
fair.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracking.
So.
Yeah. So you guys cover, most of these states in the
Yeah,
Northwest.
so the way we do it is, again, because now there's a couple of us spread out, but we go anywhere, right? We have guys, we were out in Indiana this year. We did a class in Colorado. So what will happen is we do a lot of stuff in the Northwest here, but guys will call us up and go, hey, we need a school out in, Indiana. So I'd say, okay, hey, as long as we get, 10 guys in the class, you'll be our liaison, right? You provide a range and a classroom. We'll come out. You'll get a free slot, and then we'll run the class. So we kind of have class will travel type thing.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of stuff up in Washington and Idaho in this area because we've got obviously some, from the years of being a cop, a lot of ranges like Spokane. Like this class I just did in North Idaho, we were up at ISP's range up in Athol. And we're day one, we're out there, and a trooper comes in. He's like, "Oh, who are you guys?" I'm like, "Oh, SniperCraft. We're doing a class out here." And he's like, "Oh, you're not on the schedule." I'm like, what? So there's a mix-up in the schedule. So I'm like, he's like, "Oh, ISP's out here tomorrow, and Rathrom's out here the next day." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So I call my buddy in Spokane. I go, "Hey, can we jump on your range and get a classroom?" And he's like, "Yeah, let me check." "Yep, sure." So we just pivoted, right? So we have some of those connections in Washington,
nice.
so where we can just pivot right real quickly. So it's nice to do that.
I had the same thing happen to the ISP range. I felt that. Yeah, I felt that. I've had
Yeah.
that before. Yeah.
And he wasn't a jerk about it. He's like, "Oh, we'll figure something out. We'll work it out." And I'm like, "Nah, we'll just pivot." Man.
Right.
Yeah, because I got an agenda I want to do. So
Yeah.
You're predominantly shooting 308. Is that correct?
yeah. So for law enforcement sniping, we always say 308 has been king for years. And again, a lot of people think, well, 308. There's a lot of other rounds out there, and geez, you're shooting 56 yards. Do you really need to be shooting a 308? It's just one, the availability of it, right? And two, the ballistic performance on it for what we're doing is good. And we're not shooting long distances. A lot of guys recently, there's been a lot of talk of, a lot of police snipers are going to go to 6.5 Creedmoor because it's a longer, flatter shooting round. Well, that's kind of a bleed over from the PRS competition thing where they're shooting 800 to 1,000 yards, right? They want a long, flat shooting round. But the ballistic performance that we get out of 308, especially through barriers, at those distances is better. So it's kind of been what we see predominantly. I'd say 99% is 308.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need all the super sexy stuff out
Yeah,
there.
you don't.
all comes down to
but like you and
fundamentals.
the conversation you and I have before we started this is that you got to run 2 rounds though, right? We've got an open air round. So if there's nothing between me and my target, this is the performance I'm going to get at it. But if I have to shoot through an intermediate barrier, in our case, it's a window, right? Because I'm not going to shoot blindly through a door, a window. Well, the ballistics on that, right, and what's going to happen to that round, that open air round, is just going to blow apart, and it may not even get to my target. So you have to have a barrier, what they call a barrier round or a bonded round that's going to punch through. The problem you run into with that is overpenetration. Right, because it's going to go through that window, and then it's going to go through the dude, and it's going to go through the back wall. Right, so you have to be aware of what that round is going to do through. So we do a lot of glass testing as well, where you're shooting through to just track and see what that round's going to do.
This is where, and we talked about this a little bit, G9 made right here in Post Falls. We had them on the podcast a while back, so if you missed that, go check that one out. They are doing some shit with ballistics that is mind blowing. Because I know, and I'm dumb, but let me dumb this down as I can. Josh talked about his, I think he called his barrier buster or something, the round.
Barrier blind.
Yeah. And there were, you were there, channels in the bullet. So it'll punch through glass, but as soon as it hits a liquid like blood, that will cause the round to fracture. Yeah. And so you don't have it will penetrate whatever.
Right,
and then
but when
hit
it
a body,
yes,
then it will fracture the round.
And that's like we were talking about. I met Josh and had a conversation with him where he let me know he was really smart.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I went, "Oh, okay." But he was explaining that exact thing where he's designing this round that will do that, where it's just one round, right?
Yeah.
You can shoot it through a barrier, and then when it hits your target, it's not going to overpenetrate. And I thought, oh man,
Holy shit!
We've been waiting for that for years, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, it didn't seem to make sense until you talk to somebody like him. You're like, how could you penetrate like hard barrier like glass or wood, but then it hits a body and it stops? How does that make
Well,
sense?
obviously, it hydraulically fractures. You're like, what the fuck, dude?
Whatever,
You're putting
bro.
little tiny holes in the bullet itself, and that's directing. I don't even know, man.
I'm going back to kicking doors. Dude. Whatever.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool. And I love that they're here local too. Yeah, I was convinced after that podcast, and I swapped all my pistol ammo over to
I did too.
to G9.
G9.
I'm like, I'm
And actually, when I first moved out here to Idaho, I was at a gun store, and I saw, because they're pretty wicked looking rounds, right?
What the
And I'm
fuck is
like,
this?
what is that? And they're like, oh, G9, they're local, and this and that. And so then I got to talking to, it might have been Stu and another buddy of mine, and they're like, oh yeah, G9's right here. And so they kind of hooked me up, and I went down and talked to them and sat down with them, and I went, wow, they're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, because when I first saw those rounds, they call it their external hollow point. I assumed, because I'm not a ballistics guy, that it was the rotation of the round that causes the wound channel.
Right.
But the way Josh described it, it's the parabolic curve, and the blood increases velocity and then becomes like a internal pressure washer that creates the wound channel. Wow. I was like, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
You just came up with this in your head while you're sleeping. Okay.
Yeah, but it's so cool because I even explained to him with what his background was. You expect it's going to be, military, law enforcement, special forces,
engineering.
Yes, but that probably anybody from that field would have been like, well, it's got to be polymer tipped and it's got to be different composition and it's about what it's made out of. He comes at it from a totally different direction because he never had
Different set of eyes.
Yeah, predisposition towards that stuff, and he's like, well, I got a different idea.
Yeah.
Let's see how this goes. It's cool.
And
Like,
it makes sense. I was involved in a shooting one time. My partner shot a dude that had a thick Carhartt jacket on. And we were, I can't remember, it was like Ranger. It was some type of hollow point. I can't remember the brand. And the bullets fragmented in the Carhartt. So like I helped the medics cut off the jacket, and I was pulling fragments out.
Yeah.
I even pulled a bullet out of the dude's abdomen that was just barely stuck in there.
Yeah.
And I might have saved that. And I was like, holy shit, that kind of wrecked my mind on bullets.
Right, what
and I'm
you
like,
think.
oh crap. But looking at G9, it's gonna punch right through that jacket and then cause the wound channel that we're looking for. It's like the best of both worlds.
For sure.
Pretty cool stuff.
As we often talk about, that we're not going to say Idaho's not going to fall, okay? It will just be one of the last
Where you going
ones,
with this?
right? I'm glad we have dudes like Mike that live here with their particular skill set.
It's funny, we're up where I'm at in Bayview, and probably down here too, but we always say you can't throw a rock without hitting a retired cop, firefighter, military guy. And so there's a whole network of guys up where I'm at that, like, if it goes sideways, we're all in communication and kind of have a plan. So
we talk about that.
It's a constant stream of meeting people like this, and I'm like, man, I am so glad we live here.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm not going to say it's never going to happen. They're just going to have a hell of a fight, and we'll be one of the last ones. Like, they'll mow through a lot of other states.
Well, and again, this kind of backs it up. But when I first moved out here, my wife is from Idaho. I say North Idaho. She's a little tiny town just south of Lewiston called Cooterville, of all places. And so I met her. I know, right? She calls it Cuterville, but I'm like, no.
Spelling is important. Yes.
So I met her over in Washington. She came over for work for a year. She got assigned out there for her job, and she quickly said, I'm not staying here. I'm going to go back to Idaho. So, but when she was over there and we were kind of dating, we would drive around, and every, somebody's walking around, she'd wave at them. I'm like, what are you doing? And another person, she'd wave at, and I'm like, what's weird? So then two things. She invited me back to her parents' place for Easter, and I never met the family. And so, side story, I go, okay, hey, I got some stuff packed and some clothes and stuff. And so I had a suit, because I'm meeting the family the first time, right? Suit and a tie. And so we get in the car and drive. I'm like, hey, where's my suit? And she's like, no, I didn't grab that. I think you're good. And I'm like, yeah. So I get out there, right? And this, they're all ranchers and farmers and stuff. And they're jeans and cowboy hats. And I'm like, oh my God, I would have looked like such an idiot. So she saved me, right?
She should have let you do it. 100% should have let you do it.
So one thing I noticed when we're driving out there, there's people, every person that passed us, every person walking waved. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. You're from a place that still respects people and
likes each other,
likes each community, versus where I'm out there. Another thing I noticed too is when we get to this Easter function, and it just stuck out to me. There's nieces and nephews and kids everywhere, and not a single phone in anybody's hand, right? These kids are playing a board game. These kids are playing cards. There's a couple kids throwing a Frisbee out. And I went, wow, if that was back where I was at, you'd have a kid over here on his phone. You'd have a kid on an iPad, somebody playing video games, and nobody would be talking to each other. And I'm like, that's Idaho.
That's Idaho.
Right, yeah.
It's a throwback. Throwback.
Yeah, we can go there. Yeah, that's fine. We can move there. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Shit. Well, Mike, we're going to wrap it up, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mike Bertucci, SniperCraft Northwest. Man, if you're in the law enforcement world and you guys need training, apparently you are it, dude.
Yeah, man. Hey, before I go,
Yeah, what you got?
I got gifts, man.
Oh, shit.
Dude.
But you're going to have to fight for them because I only got a large and a 2XL. So whoever's,
All right.
you know,
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Who wants the schmedium, right?
Yeah.
Of our shirts. So
We'll compete amongst ourselves,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Dude, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, bro.
badass.
for sure. Appreciate coming on.
Snipers training snipers.
Heck
That's
yeah.
cool as shit. You're going to have to teach me how to shoot, though, because I feel like
Yeah, we'll get together, man. We'll get Stu. Every time Stu gets back in town, he's like, let's go to the range. And it's funny because one time we go out and he's like, and you know, I'm retired now, so I shoot and stuff, but I don't do it like I used to. And he gets out there and he's like, puts his helmet on. He's like, okay, so we're going to run down and do this and do that. I'm like, whoa, bro, I'm getting old, man.
Yeah.
How about we walk
minute.
down?
Yeah.
Well, we can work something out with Johan. I'm sure you know him, too.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Get something worked out there.
Yeah,
and
we
go
keep
do some
talking
shooting.
about it. Now we got to do it.
I know.
Cool.
I got a rifle I got to sight in anyway. So
I know.
Right now I know a guy.
Dude, great conversation,
Yeah,
bro.
for sure.
Really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it,
me,
man.
man. Appreciate it.
Cool backstory, bro. I just love it.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Love being out here.
All right.
Cheers.
Catch you later.